Ben stared at the night sky, blood pooling around him in the dark alley. His last thought was of Tina, 6 years together, and she never agreed to marry him. He had called her one last time after getting attacked and robbed. She brushed him off, saying something about her assistant and being followed in some foreign country. Her last words still rang in his ears. "You've been suffocating me. I'll marry you when I return." Then darkness took him. When Ben opened his eyes, he found himself 6 years in the past. The familiar racetrack stretched before him, and there sat 19-year-old Tina on her motorcycle, her eyes bright with love and determination. She reminded him of their bet. If she won the race, he would be with her. His heart ached seeing her like this, so different from the cold, distant woman she would become. The summer sun beat down on them as Ben watched her, taking in every detail he had forgotten. Her almond eyes sparkled with pure emotion, nothing like the irritated glares she would give him years later. Her fierce spirit shone through her every movement. Ben felt tears forming in his eyes, overwhelmed by this second chance. The race that started it all played out again. Tina, brave and reckless, took that dangerous turn at full speed. Ben's heart stopped when her bike nearly slipped, but she held on, claiming both the championship and his heart. He ran to her, holding her close, crying openly as she kissed him in front of everyone. That moment began their story, but this time, Ben knew how it would end. Those first years were beautiful. Tina loved him completely, defending him against anyone who spoke badly of him. She even quit smoking when she noticed his coughing, and made sure no one smoked around him. Everyone said they had never seen Tina care for someone so deeply. She would practice racing for hours just to spend time with him afterward. By the 5th year, though, everything changed. Ben started noticing the signs: late nights out, the smell of another man's cologne, her excuses about networking and socializing. When he brought up marriage, she would look at him like he was asking for too much. If he mentioned breaking up, she would shower him with gifts and promises of love, but marriage remained too soon. But now, with this second chance, Ben saw everything clearly. He wasn't going to repeat those 6 years chasing after a marriage that would never happen. This time, he would write a different story. Ben now understood why Tina always delayed their marriage, claiming she needed her business to be more stable first. Those 5 years of happy memories kept pulling him back whenever he doubted her, but in the end, she fell for Eric. The story of how Eric entered their lives seemed simple at first. Tina rescued him from a bar where his father had essentially sold him to cover gambling debts. Eric agreed to work as her assistant for 2 years to repay the $10,000 she spent. At first, Ben watched patiently as Tina spent extra hours training Eric, who knew nothing about the business. But then she took Eric on a business trip to the U.S. without telling Ben. The truth came out at a sponsored dinner, where Ben witnessed something that shattered his world. A woman was getting too close to Eric, and Tina nearly slapped her before catching herself. Her words to Eric struck deep. "Don't worry, you're safe with me." When Eric asked if she would protect him forever, Tina's silence spoke volumes, especially when she spotted Ben at the end of the hallway, tasting blood from biting his cheek too hard. That moment revealed everything. Tina could care deeply for another man, and Eric wasn't just any assistant. Ben had seen how Tina operated. She wasn't a saint, but rather someone who could break bones while wearing a sweet smile. She was a fierce protector, and now that protection was focused on Eric. Ben fled the scene, driving recklessly while Tina pursued him in her car. When she tried to block his path, he nearly flipped his vehicle. Seeing her unharmed after the chaos, he collapsed on his car's hood. She rushed to embrace him, explaining that Eric was her responsibility, someone she had to protect. Then she slipped a ring on his finger, promising a big surprise and marriage after completing some mysterious deal. But everything fell apart with one phone call. Eric, panicking, called about being followed, wondering if it was someone from Tina's past. The line went dead, and Tina chose him over Ben, leaving only exhaust fumes as she sped away. The final blow came through a text. Eric revealed the truth about the ring. It was just a prop from 3 months ago, meant for a customer but swapped for a necklace. All Tina's talk about marriage had been empty promises. When Ben confronted Eric about the supposed danger, his response was cruel. "Tina's already saving me, isn't she? You think 6 years together gives you ownership of her? I was testing her, and when I hugged her, her heart raced. She's tired of you, and I'll tell you all about it." But Ben never got to hear those details. Someone grabbed him from behind in that dark alley, and everything went black. In that dark alley, 2 men cornered Ben, demanding his valuables. After he handed everything over, their eyes turned predatory. As they began to touch him, Ben struggled desperately. His phone clattered to the ground during the fight, and he managed to hit a speed dial number. Tina's irritated voice came through, speaking about her assistant and some danger in a foreign land. Her last words echoed in his ears. "I can't breathe with you. I'll marry you when I get back." The line went dead. Before Ben could make another call, rough hands grabbed him. One covered his mouth while the other started tearing at his clothes. Fighting back with desperate strength, he bit the hand over his mouth and kicked one attacker between the legs. Their fury exploded. The cold bite of a knife sliced across his throat, and Ben watched his life pour out onto the foreign pavement. Then suddenly, impossibly, he was back at the racetrack 6 years ago. But this time, looking at Tina's bright, hopeful smile stirred no warmth in his heart. His eyes remained cold as ice. He declared he wouldn't let her win the race, even if it killed him. The crowd fell silent at his words, shocked by the venom in his voice. Tina's confident smile faltered, confusion clouding her features. Ben snapped his helmet visor down, focusing solely on the track ahead. The starting gun cracked through the air, and he shot forward like a bullet. Tina's bike stayed glued to his left side, refusing to give up. They approached the infamous narrow turn, the same one where he had let her pass in his previous life, where his feelings had made him weak. Not this time. Without hesitation, Ben gunned the engine, taking the turn at a speed that made spectators gasp in horror. They called him crazy, reckless, ruthless, and they were right. He'd become all those things. The dangerous maneuver gave him an unbeatable lead as Tina was forced to brake hard, her bike sliding off the track. Ben crossed the finish line alone. Behind him, Tina stood beside her wrecked bike, clutching her injured shoulder. Her eyes met his, eerily calm despite everything. He grabbed the trophy, flipped her off, and walked away. But she limped after him, grabbing his arm with her good hand. Her face showed raw panic as she asked if he truly hated her enough to risk everything just to avoid their connection. He laughed coldly, shaking off her grip without mercy. "Who do you think you are?" he spat. "Just because you chase me doesn't mean I have to agree. You lost this race. Stop bothering me." Each word was chosen to cut deep, to hurt her as much as she would one day hurt him. Tina's face darkened at Ben's rejection. As a privileged socialite, she wasn't used to being turned down, especially not so harshly in public. "Ben, you'll regret this," she warned through gritted teeth. He just laughed and rode away along the mountain road, finally free to reflect on their story. His bitter thoughts echoed in his mind. They couldn't even make it to 7 years before she fell for someone else. The memory of their first meeting at that fateful banquet surfaced. Back then, Ben was a rebellious soul, deliberately causing trouble to spite his father. His most infamous act came at his father's birthday party, where he switched his stepmother's planned gift with a green hat, a symbol of infidelity in their culture. With a cold smile, he had presented it saying, "Dad, this suits you perfectly. You betrayed Mom, and now another woman's betrayed you. Karma, isn't it?" His father's rage exploded as he smashed a teacup against Ben's head. Blood trickled down, But Ben kept smiling, promising there was more to come. His stepmother, a former actress who built her fortune through questionable means, stood frozen as Ben played videos exposing her numerous affairs. His father's face turned a sickly shade of green, matching the hat's symbolic meaning. When his stepmother tried to slap him, Ben blocked her hand and revealed the full extent of her cruelty. She had systematically destroyed his once happy family, seducing his father and tormenting his mother with intimate videos, mocking her age and inability to keep her man. Despite being his father's first love, his mother was discarded like an old toy. His father had called her boring, demanded divorce, and even sent her an ultrasound of his new wife's pregnancy along with an offer of 35% company shares. The trauma triggered his mother's postpartum depression, leading to her tragic jump from a building. His father quickly married the actress, who initially played nice, but soon showed her true nature, leaving bruises on Ben and denying him food. Karma eventually caught up with her when she fell at a gala while trying to outshine a younger actress. The accident left her unable to have children. Though his father moved on to other women, none could give him the heir he desperately wanted. By 18, Ben had inherited his mother's 35% share in the company, freeing him from any obligation to respect his father. When his father ordered him to leave, Ben turned to go, but his stepmother, in a moment of blind rage, grabbed a knife, ready to kill him in front of all the party guests. Chaos erupted at the party as Tina kicked Ben's stepmother to the ground, security rushing in to restrain the would-be murderer. In that moment of madness, Ben's eyes met Tina's amber ones. She watched him with fascination, like a rare creature she'd discovered at what should have been another boring social event. "What's your name?" she asked. Even as a rebellious teenager, Ben found himself answering her. There was something naturally noble about her presence, and she had just saved his life after all. The summer breeze played with her hair as she studied him. "You're an interesting one," she mused. "If I believed in romance, I'd propose right now. But men like your father have made me cautious." Ben met her gaze steadily and replied, "It's Tina. Remember it? Your future girlfriend's name." Soon after, Tina transferred to his school and discovered his passion for racing. She threw herself into learning motorcycles with fierce determination. One day, Ben got a call from their friend Mike about Tina crashing her bike. He found her in bed with her arm in a sling, furious that Mike had told him. She'd wanted to master riding first, to impress him with her skills later. That moment sparked something in Ben's heart. While others had always warned him away from motorcycles, calling them too dangerous, Tina was different. She wanted to share his passion, to understand his world. She proved her dedication in unexpected ways, like when she got into a fight with a classmate who had tried to date Ben. The girl had insulted him after being rejected, and the next day Tina showed up with a bruised face. The other girl transferred schools after Tina knocked out her teeth. Tina's pursuit of Ben was fearless and public. She once confessed her feelings over the school's morning announcement system, proudly showing off her punishment letter as proof of her love. She rejected other suitors immediately, telling them straight out that her heart belonged to someone named Ben. On cold winter days, she'd brave snowstorms just to find roasted sweet potatoes, keeping them warm against her chest to bring to him. Every day brought the same questions from her. "Have you fallen for me yet? Can I be your girlfriend?" Her persistence became legendary at their university. Everyone knew Tina was completely devoted to Ben. Her determination made it impossible not to develop feelings for her. Finally, Ben proposed a challenge. If she could win a race, he'd date her. What she never knew was that he deliberately lost that race, finally allowing himself to be vulnerable with someone. Ben's world shifted when Eric appeared in their class 5 years earlier than in his past life, admitted on a scholarship for his excellent grades. During Eric's introduction, their eyes met, and Ben caught a flash of hatred that shouldn't have existed. They had never met in this timeline unless Eric had also been reborn. Ben watched carefully as Eric began interacting with Tina. She misinterpreted Ben's attention as jealousy and deliberately started showing Eric special treatment, bringing him breakfast as she once did for Ben, accepting water from him during sports, and letting him sit close to her during study sessions. She wanted to prove Ben wasn't irreplaceable in her life. In their previous timeline, when Eric joined the company, Ben would bring Tina dinner, worried she'd neglect herself and get sick. Now he watched history repeat itself as she patiently guided Eric through work tasks, giving him the kind of attention she hadn't shown Ben in years. Her laughter at Eric's confusion, her willingness to explain things repeatedly, it all felt like daggers in Ben's heart, remembering how she once promised to mentor only him. Tensions exploded when Ben confronted them, coldly reminding Eric he was hired to work, not flirt with his boss. Eric played innocent, claiming he only had work questions and offering to show his computer as proof. Tina shut down Ben's concerns, focusing on urgent deadlines. When Eric pleaded about keeping his job, mentioning his father's reaction, Tina pulled Ben away in frustration. That night brought their first argument about Eric. Ben tried to warn her about his gut feeling regarding Eric's true intentions, but Tina dismissed it as paranoia. She even showed Ben surveillance footage to prove nothing inappropriate was happening. But this time around, Ben remained oddly calm. He simply closed his book and walked out, hearing Tina snap at Eric behind him, telling him to stop bothering her and find help elsewhere. The confrontation came in the bathroom, where Eric cornered Ben with a knowing smirk. "Stop pretending," he taunted. "You recognized me the moment you saw me. You're back too, Ben, just like last time. But you still won't win." Then Eric revealed the truth about their past timeline, how he would manipulate Tina on Valentine's Day, calling about his abusive father, knowing she would rush to help, offering money to keep his father away. He was playing the same game again, but this time, Ben saw through it all. Everything started making sense to Ben now. Why Tina would disappear after mysterious calls and return with bruised knuckles, blaming work stress. On their 6th anniversary, history had repeated itself. Eric called about a storm triggering memories of abuse, and Tina left Ben with an apology gift and a lie about her sick mother, suggesting he shouldn't come along. Tina's mother had always despised Ben, considering him too wild after his behavior at his father's birthday party. The Liu family wanted an obedient son-in-law, not someone unpredictable like him. Out of love for Tina, Ben had endured her mother's cutting remarks, believing Tina's excuse about her mother's health being the reason he couldn't visit. The memory still burned. Ben sitting alone at a table laden with carefully prepared food that grew cold while he brainstormed ways to win her mother's approval. All while Tina was elsewhere, comforting Eric, whispering promises meant only for lovers. Eric revealed with twisted pleasure how Tina had cheated multiple times, transferring all her special attention from Ben to him while maintaining the facade of their relationship. As Eric finished his story, he watched Ben's face hungrily, expecting to see pain or rage. But Ben simply wiped his hands calmly, keeping his expression neutral. "Not everyone keeps holding on to trash forever," he said coolly. "If you want that kind of garbage, keep it. But it seems she's not even interested in you this time around." Eric's response was theatrical. He threw himself to the floor, slapping his own face until it reddened, deliberately messing up his uniform and pulling at his hair. His grin turned malicious as he threatened Ben. "If people think you're bullying me out of jealousy, who will believe you? Your reputation isn't exactly spotless. You're going to lose to me again." Ben watched Eric's performance with detachment, realizing that even being reborn hadn't made Eric any wiser. If anything, he'd become more foolish. All this drama over someone like Tina seemed pointless now. Soon, rumors spread through the school about Ben bullying Eric. The school forum buzzed with stories about Ben's supposed two-faced nature, rejecting Tina while attacking any man who got close to her. The school administration got involved, concerned about their reputation since Eric was a scholarship student. Ben's family background protected him from direct confrontation, keeping the backlash to whispers and rumors. But everything escalated when a media outlet published their story, complete with censored photos of Eric covered in bruises, crying about being trapped in a fight against someone too powerful to resist. The scandal grew like wildfire. People who had always resented Ben suddenly emerged with fabricated stories about his supposed bullying. They produced doctored photos of him attacking others and spun tales about reckless racing accidents that left victims permanently disabled. Even the incident with his stepmother's knife attack was twisted around, painting Ben as such an uncontrollable child that his parents had no choice but to use violence. The internet turned savage. Ben's personal information leaked everywhere, with strangers sharing their own stories of bullying and trauma, using him as a symbol of privileged abuse. Comments flooded social media. Rich kids think they're untouchable. Authorities need to stop this scum. Ban him from all schools. Mark his permanent record. Overnight, Ben became public enemy number one, with his fellow students demanding his expulsion. Every glance in the hallway dripped with suspicion and disgust. In the midst of this chaos, Tina approached him. At first, she seemed almost pleased, thinking his supposed attacks on Eric proved his jealousy, proved he cared about her. She gripped his hand tightly, asking if she was the reason behind it all. When Ben firmly denied touching Eric, something shifted in her expression. She paused, then adopted a savior's pose. "Ben, it's too late now," she said, her voice filled with false concern. "Nobody will believe these stories are fake. But I can make it all go away, if you're nice to me." Her offer hung in the air like poison. Ben's response was ice cold. Just 3 words. No need. Never. Tina's eyes reddened with tears, playing the role of the wounded lover perfectly. "I've been so good to you," she whispered. "Even a stone would have warmed up by now. You're heartless, Ben. Why won't you just give us a chance?" "Because I already did," Ben replied quietly. "I tried for years and lost everything." He remembered how her love had slowly faded while his only grew stronger. In their early days, she had looked at him like he was precious, constantly talking about marriage and their future together. But when they were finally old enough to marry, she went silent on the subject. Even Ben's typically distant father had started asking about wedding plans, but Tina would always deflect with vague promises about waiting. Ben had become increasingly insecure, compromising himself piece by piece until he barely recognized the person he'd become. He'd avoided confronting the growing cracks in their relationship, watching helplessly as Tina made empty gestures to patch things up. Ben had spent years making excuses for Tina, hoping her love would make her change. Those sweet memories had always softened his resolve, leading him to forgive and ignore the signs of betrayal. The cost had been steep. 6 years of his life, and ultimately his death in that other timeline. He wouldn't repeat those mistakes, even as Tina looked at him with lingering affection, promising not to give up. Just as Eric was celebrating his plan to get Ben expelled, Ben made his countermove. He called a press conference, agreeing to a full interview and bringing in everyone involved in the alleged incidents to tell their stories, except his stepmother, who remained in jail. One by one, the truth emerged. The supposed assault victim stepped forward first. He explained how he had tried to extort money from Ben, who had only defended himself. After the incident, when the man's grandmother fell ill, Ben had loaned him money and later offered him a security job at his company after his release from juvenile detention. The man spoke with genuine gratitude about how Ben had helped save his grandmother's life. Next came the racing incident. The supposedly crippled racer appeared in person to explain how his car had malfunctioned, nearly sending him off a cliff. Ben's quick action had saved his life. The injuries were unfortunate, but far better than the alternative death. Regarding his stepmother, Ben chose discretion. Instead of showing violent footage inappropriate for students, he shared her jail-written apology letter admitting to years of abuse. She had wanted his forgiveness letter to reduce her sentence, but he had refused to write it. The media's attention shifted dramatically. Reporters thrust microphones in his face, asking the crucial question, if all these other incidents were proven false, what about the current school bullying? Surely if those accusations were also lies, the alleged victim could clear things up just like the others had. Ben simply pointed to where Eric stood watching with hatred in his eyes. Why don't you ask him yourself? The reporters turned to Eric, who immediately launched into his performance, tears ready on cue. I don't understand what I did wrong, he whimpered. I'm just a poor student who asked Tina for help with schoolwork. Ben played the bathroom recording, Eric's own words echoing back at him. If you're bullying me out of jealousy, who would believe you with your reputation? You're destined to be my loser. The gathered crowd fell silent. Eric hadn't expected Ben to record their conversation, but Ben had learned from experience, the same way he'd gotten evidence of his stepmother's abuse at 18. He'd been recording since the moment Eric started following him. I waited to expose this, Ben explained calmly to the reporters, because I wanted to see how far he would go. The bigger his lies grew, the harder they'd fall. Eric stood frozen, tears streaming down his face as his carefully constructed plot crumbled. Suddenly the crowd parted as a man in a worn plaid shirt pushed through, his hands cracked and weathered from hard labor. Without warning, he slapped Eric across the face. Ungrateful child, he roared. Where have you been all these years, leaving me alone? Eric's face drained of color as he whispered, Dad? The truth spilled out in front of the cameras. This was Eric's abusive father, abandoned by his wife when Eric was 3. You look just like her with that lying face, the man spat. Think getting into a good school means you can abandon me too? He broke down, ranting about the struggles of raising a son alone while Eric tried desperately to escape the spotlight. The media circled like vultures, cameras flashing as Eric tried to shield his face. His father grabbed at him, talking about a worried grandmother at home. In desperation, Eric broke free and fell to his knees before Ben, clutching his hand. Please help me, he begged. I'll never compete with you again. Ben looked down at him without pity. When you made that video accusing me of bullying, did you think about consequences? I'm not your savior. Why should I help someone who tried to destroy me? Eric snapped, lunging at Ben. But Tina intervened, kicking him to the ground. He screamed in frustration. I just wanted to be with you sooner. You said you were tired of Ben, that if we'd met earlier, you'd have chosen me. Tina's once warm eyes turned to ice as she looked at the broken man before her and said one word, Psycho. Ben looked at Eric with something close to pity. He didn't hate him. Without Eric, someone else would have caught Tina's eye eventually. Eric's mistake was thinking he was special to Tina, not realizing he was just her latest conquest. She had pursued Ben first, and how could a desperate pursuer compare to someone deliberately staying out of reach? In trying to change the past, Eric had only hastened his own downfall. As Eric's father dragged him away with photographers swarming behind them, Tina proudly told Ben she had arranged for Eric's father to come, ensuring he would never bother them again. Ben laughed bitterly. You were behind those media stories too, weren't you? Who else in North City would dare target the Ben family? Her silence confirmed everything. Finally, she spoke. I just wanted you to need me, to compromise. Ben's response was ice cold. Being with me wasn't enough? You make me sick. Get out of my life. You create hell and then try to play savior. Maybe you never really loved me. Maybe you just enjoyed watching a wild rose lose its thorns for you. The thrill of the conquest was all you wanted. Tina's face contorted with humiliation, her fingers white-knuckled, face ashen. What do I have to do to make you love me? She begged, her mighty facade crumbling completely. For the first time, the proud Tina was reduced to pleading. Her love might have been real now, but seeing her desperate only disgusted Ben more. Why don't you try dying? he suggested mockingly. Maybe then I'll make a grand scene at your funeral, crying about how much I loved you. Without another glance, he walked away. He applied for an exchange program, ready to escape this toxic cycle with Tina. But the day his application was approved, everything changed. Ben woke up in an abandoned villa, facing a transformed Tina. Gone was her carefree demeanor, replaced by something sinister. She had lost weight, looking almost skeletal. When Ben glared at her with unprecedented hatred, she reached out to touch his face, her voice breaking. "Don't look at me like that, Ben. It hurts too much." Ben snapped, demanding hysterically why she couldn't let him go, why she kept haunting him after he'd made it clear he never wanted to see her again. The woman before him was a stranger wearing the face of someone he once loved. Ben stared at her, seeing a ghost of his past life, a past only he was supposed to remember. His hatred for her betrayal had faded into something worse, pure disgust. He just wanted freedom from their endless cycle, a chance at a fresh start. "You're leaving?" she asked softly. "Because of me?" When he confirmed both questions, pain flashed across her face. "Ben, I've been having these dreams for 6 years," she confessed. "We were almost married in them. They feel too real to be just dreams." She looked at him hopefully, but fear quickly replaced that hope. Ben understood why. If she truly remembered their past life, she would see everything. How she had changed, how she had betrayed him for Eric, how she had left him to die in that street. "It was all real," she whispered, her voice shaking. "But I saw there was nothing between Eric and me. I just wanted to make you jealous. How could I ever truly choose him over you?" The memories of their past life crashed over Ben like a wave. She remembered everything, yet still dared to kidnap him. "You're despicable," he spat through clenched teeth. She pulled him into an embrace, whispering, "Curse me all you want. Just don't leave." In response, Ben bit down hard on her shoulder, tasting blood. Yet even as she bled, she held him tighter, her tears falling hot on his neck. "I only ever loved you," she cried. "Eric was just a distraction. I never meant to leave you. I really wanted to marry you. Something came over me whenever he called. I had to go to him, but I felt so guilty." Ben swallowed the metallic taste in his mouth, bitter with anger. "What's the point of telling me this now, Tina? You're worse than my father. At least he doesn't pretend. You lurk in shadows, doing horrible things while claiming to love me. Your love is worthless." She promised she wouldn't turn him into his mother, knowing how deeply he feared betrayal. If she had just ended things when her feelings changed, he wouldn't have wasted so many years. She gripped his shoulder tighter, her face wet with tears, but Ben felt nothing but cold contempt. "In our past life, I made a mistake any woman could make," Tina pleaded. "When you died, I was devastated. I drank myself sick. The company collapsed. I got stomach cancer, and within a year, I followed you to the grave. I never loved Eric. We can start over. I won't betray you this time. I love you truly. Please stop torturing me and don't leave." She pulled out a ring and knelt before him. "This diamond, I found it myself in the mines. I designed it myself. When I first saw you, you were like a thorned rose, making me fall deeper and deeper. You're my rare blue diamond." But Ben just looked at her coldly, remembering how in their past life, even her proposal ring had been a client's order, just another lie. Sirens wailed outside. Police officers burst in, pinning Tina to the ground as her precious ring clattered across the floor. Ben hadn't survived his past life's throat-slitting without learning. He'd installed an emergency alert system with GPS on his phone and had triggered it while Tina was desperately clutching at him earlier. As they cuffed her, Ben watched without emotion. "You'll never have another chance to entangle with me," he said, mouthing silently. "Goodbye forever." 2 months into his exchange program in France, Ben received a call from an old classmate. Tina was dying from multiple stab wounds, courtesy of Eric. After being sold as a bride to an abusive 50-year-old village man by his father, Eric had escaped and waited outside the police station, hoping for Tina's help. But Tina, freshly released on bail thanks to her family's influence, had coldly dismissed him, telling him to handle his own problems. Driven mad by her abandonment and ranting about past lives and betrayals, Eric had attacked her with a knife. He was later declared mentally unstable and institutionalized. Ben's response to the news was simple. "That's unfortunate." He hung up and put on his helmet, mounting his motorcycle. As he rode up the mountain paths, the summer breeze carried away the last remnants of his past life. Ben had risen from the ashes of his former self, ready to embrace all the endless possibilities that lay ahead. His new life was just beginning, and this time, he would charge forward without looking back.